Hey guys, Dr. Nico over here. So earlier we talked about patellar tendon pain for playing basketball. In the last video we talked about quad flexibility and mobility, how to reduce some tension and offload that patellar tendon to make sure potentially you can have less pain. In this video we're actually going to be focusing on quad strengthening or glute strengthening depending on the phase that you're in. So let's start with the acute phase, like the early phase. Let's say, for example, Andrew's been playing basketball. He's been having some tendon pain for maybe like 1 or 2 weeks. It's probably too soon to be strengthening or loading that patellar tendon. So we probably might want to start offloading the tendon by strengthening something else. So by using maybe your glutes. We'll show them today how to squat with using and biasing your glute muscles to give some tension off the patellar tendon. Okay. So Andrew, let's have you grab the band. We're just going to do a 2-legged squat. So actually, before we start with the band, let's have you go down. Let's say, for example, he's having pain. Let's have you face me. He's going to do a 2-legged squat. Go ahead. Let's say right now he's having a lot of pain in that patellar tendon area. Okay, go ahead and do it one more time. He's probably putting too much strain and load to that area. So what we want to try and do is offload it by activating his glutes a little bit more and give some break off the quads. So instead of kind of squatting down forward, he should be squatting backwards a little bit more just to bias his glutes. So the band is going to help us activate those glutes a little bit better. So here you go. So let's start with facing the camera first. So he's going to do that same motion, but he's actually going to hip hinge backwards a little bit more to activate those glutes. Good. So let's say he does this for maybe like up to a set of 10 or up to a set of 15, maybe like 3 rounds. Keep going. Good. So he's actually getting his glutes to fire a little bit more with the band. The band is actually going to force his knees to go inward. So he has to really use his glutes to push it out to bias those a little bit more. Good. Sweet. Okay. So let's have you face me now. Let's show the camera the other way. Okay. Perfect. Let's say he finished his 3 sets of 10 or 15. He can retest that air squat again to see if it's having less pain because now he's activating his glutes better. So let's take the band out. Let's face me again. So let's say he retests that squat again. And now he says he has less pressure or pulling on the patellar tendon, excuse me. That means now instead of biasing and activating his quads too much, he's probably using his glutes pretty well. Okay, good. So that's 2-legged. So now we're going to do maybe 1-legged if this is getting too easy. So let's have Andrew, let's show the camera just a 1-legged squat. Good. So same concept with the first one. Maybe he's feeling too much quad contraction. He's putting a lot of strain on his kneecap and his patellar tendon. So he face this way. Maybe right now he's drawing his knee too far forward and putting a lot of pressure in the front area of his knee. So similar to the double limb squat, we're going to do a 1-legged squat with the band. But we're going to try and bias those glute muscles again just to offload the tendon. Okay, let's have you start there. 1 leg. Remember, you want to hip hinge a little bit more just to get your glutes going. Let's say if he's having a lot of knee pain right now and he's going forward, that can put a lot of pressure there. Let's have you face the other way too. Let's go the bad way right now. So acutely, if he's in that phase, maybe 1 to 2 weeks where he's playing and it's really hurting, maybe we want to avoid doing some movements like this. And he wants to actually hinge backwards at the hips. So go ahead. Perfect. So same thing, maybe like 3 sets of 10 to 15, depending on what you feel. Perfect. Take the band out. Okay. So now that we've gone maybe like 1 or 2 weeks out of playing basketball, he needs to offload it. Maybe it's happening maybe 3 months down the line, 2 or 3 months down the line, and he's still having that recurring tendon pain. So maybe it's not always just the glutes. Maybe the quad is actually feeling weak and the tendon doesn't have enough resiliency or strength to withstand movements like that. So we actually want to put the tendon in some stress lightly and make sure it's tolerable where it's not in too much pain. Okay. So to do with that, we're going to use maybe like plates here. We're going to do the same thing, 2-legged squat, but we're going to put his heel in an elevated position just so that he can put more pressure forward into the knee. Let's have you face that way. So maybe if you have a weightlifting shoe, that'll be helpful. But if you don't, you can always use something to elevate your heels. So now with this one, Andrew, I actually want you to go your knees past your toes. So maybe down the line, if his pain isn't too high, but it's still bothersome, and this is actually tolerable, we want to put some stretch and strain and strength to the patellar tendon and to the quads. So a lot of research when it comes to patellar tendinopathy or tendonitis is slow eccentric movements really help increase some of the resiliency and hopefully reduce some of the pain potentially. So I want you to go maybe 3 seconds down, focus on the downward motion. So you should feel a nice quad contraction. You should feel the patellar tendon stiffening up, and that's what's pretty good. That's what we want. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're in the early phases where maybe like 1 or 2 weeks down the line you start to feel this, maybe we want to avoid this. But maybe 2 or 3 months down the line, long term, this is a good way to help increase some of the quad strength. All right, so face the other way. So before we can actually switch and transition between the acute phase and the chronic phase, it's probably best to get evaluated first by a physical therapist, movement expert, or anything like that, just to know what's appropriate, whether it be the heel elevated squat or just a regular air squat with the glutes. So in the next videos, we'll actually be talking about the movement mechanics, maybe during basketball, how the patellar tendon can be causing some stress. But as of now, we already addressed flexibility in the quad. Now we just address strength. And the next video will be coming up soon. Thanks, guys.